So let's recap. We're talking about the Joe Morello full stroke, which, thanks to Don Famularo, involves a free stroke to the full position, is a way of understanding it. And that is basically, like we said, Joe would say snap, a wrist, mainly wrist-generated stroke, snapping the wrist down. You can, the reality is you end up finding, you change the degree of snap, really, depending on what you want, right? I mean, I'm not always just snap, but sometimes it's lighter, like this. I'm not really snapping, but I'm really loose.
You're still thinking up.
I'm not thinking up. Okay. I'm just following the stick up. I'm just completely open, and it's just this movement. You can do it with sticks, you know. It's just this. It's just kind of, I'm thinking like that, but then I have developed the reflex to follow the stick to the up position again, to the start position, because we start here.
That's the key. Right?
That's the key. And I can feel the stick pushing my fingers out. Actually, that's what's happening here. So that's another nice bit of business. Having the fingers on the stick is, you can feel this part of the stick pushing out there.
Yeah, right.
You know, Joe never actually mentioned that, but that's part of the sensation. So it looks like this, right? And what I did with Joe was, you know, stone, page 5, 6, and 7, right, left, and I go slow enough that I could think about each stroke. And doing this for a month was amazing. So now when I play, if I have all that, you know, it's like kind of Keith Carlock vibe, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything I left out there?
Can you talk about the angle of the sticks on their up position?
Okay, the starting position is pointing to the ceiling, or Joe would say 18 inches. I don't, you know, these contradictions, right?
It's 90 degrees, and you don't have to overextend.
You're not going past 90 degrees. Okay. So pointing to the ceiling seems to work well, and that's how the ready position looks. And you know, we don't need to go into where to be on the stick and all that stuff.
Right.
We're at the balance point, etc. Yeah. Right?
But the fingers they're not in the way of the rebound.
Joe used to say, and again, this is all debatable and it's not the whole picture, but he said that the first finger's a rudder. To him it was just a rudder. So in fact, my calluses are all along my finger because, and that's actually a good point you raised, in fact, the stick is sliding up in this space here.
Okay.
And it's pushing against my fingers, and that's my ready position there. What I've discovered from Bill Bachman, for other stuff, people talk about this, the first joint, I guess you'd call it, and being in that position, like Tommy Igoe would talk about that.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting because people will say by having this position, you allow for more finger control. Bill Bachman says, no, actually, by having yourself in this second joint, it allows for the first finger to wrap around the stick a little bit more. At its worst, that can be an invitation to grip the stick too tightly, but at its best, still being loose, it allows for this finger to be part of the equation. And I agree, if you're in this position, it actually takes a bit of tension to maintain that position.
Where's the tension?
The tension is like just there. Like if I'm thinking, okay, I want to hold that stick, at its best, you can sort of cradle it there, but when you so that's the way it works. But there's a bit of tension to maintain that if you're consciously trying to maintain that hold. If you're here, if you're in that second knuckle, or that knuckle position, it's not a knuckle, whatever, the second joint, the stick is naturally sitting against that fleshy part of the finger, which is like in traditional grip, the thumb. The way the thumb works in traditional grip, I think when you're in this joint here, it works on that.
Oh, interesting.
I really think that's it. That's what Bill Bachman is saying. So when he does a double, he's not squeezing or straining, but he's got the stick nicely anchored there, just like in here.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. Yeah. That contradicts what a lot of guys say about having that gap. But I kind of noticed that when you have the gap, you eliminate the strength of that first finger, being able to partake. Like Joe would say, oh, it's just a rudder. Yeah. But on the other hand, if you go back here, this is what Bill Bachman calls first finger fulcrum, which Joe never used really, or he never said he used. Yeah. But when you're in that position, you can actually do this, you know. So I've been playing with that. It's kind of an
cool.
interesting thing, and it makes for a fatter double.
Oh yeah.
See, as opposed to the sound changes, right?
Yeah.
But that there's a bit more strength in that because
Yeah.
I've got that. So that's a side note, okay? So when I'm doing this, it's actually you see, I don't think you can successfully do this full stroke if you're going to think that you're going to maintain that first joint. So that's why it kind of flies around, but it ends up resting against that part of the finger. Okay.
Cool.
That is kind of cool, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so that's the heaviest part of all this.
Okay, I'm listening.
So that's the full stroke. That's one of 4 strokes in the Gladstone technique, Billy Gladstone. By the way, one of the variations is, this stroke is used for accents, okay? So anytime in a Joe exercise there'd be an accent, it's that, okay? But the reality is that, in fact, sometimes it's a half stroke accent because you might be down here and you just might be doing this as opposed to this, right? Your accent might be that level. So that's where Dom Famulero says, that's still a free stroke, but I'm coming up to the half stroke level. All right. So, in a sense, that's a little gray area because that's a full stroke, the high position pointing to the ceiling. It's not the only possible accent stroke because an accent is relative to the other notes. So you can have tap strokes and accents that are half stroke. The accents are at the half stroke height.
Got it.
Okay. That's something we didn't cover with Joe. It was basically,
Stuff in between.
But we didn't do stuff in between. It was really accents were here. And so, bearing that in mind, to continue on with what Joe showed me, you got the full stroke, then you have a downstroke, which is starting in the full stroke position. Everything's the same exactly, and all you're doing, instead of letting it rebound naturally like we just worked on, you're stopping it by just a quick, like Bill Bachman would say, Jeff Queen talks about, when you're a kid and you run into the couch and the cushions kind of break your fall into the couch, right? So he says the fleshy part of the hand are like the cushions on the couch. They kind of just stop the stick. Bill Bachman talks about just actually using the fingers to squeeze just enough to stop the rebound and then immediately release.
But sorry, the instant of the hit.
The instant of the hit.
What's happening in your hand? Are all your fingers on there?
Yes.
So how does the stick? It wants to go up.
So it wants to go up, but it won't go up it'll go up if I don't involve my fingers and I do a full stroke and I keep my hand down but don't do anything with my fingers. This is what happens. It comes up. So if I do that and just have my fingers stop the stick, that's a downstroke.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, because Gladstone is all about controlled strokes.
Yeah.
There are no stolen Moller strokes. There's none of that stuff. They're all controlled. The only thing that is not controlled is that rebound. You're accepting the rebound. But that's a control stroke, okay?
Oh, that's what Garibaldi would use those. Controlled, is that what they're called?
A lot of guys use that terminology, controlled strokes.
You'd hit a rim shot and then have one after?
Well, if you want to, see, this is related to Gladstone.
Okay.
And his guy was Murray Spivak.
Right.
Okay? It all ends up being the same kind of material. Okay? So, full stroke, downstroke, tap, up.
And on the up you hit?
On the up, there are only 2 sounds here. This is a full stroke sound. This is a downstroke sound. Same sound basically. That was a little bit quieter, but it should be the same sound. Okay? Yeah.
Okay.
Now downstroke, ideally you end in position to do a tap stroke. So full, down, tap, up. So an upstroke is the same, a tap stroke sounds like this. That's a tap stroke. That's just what it is, okay? It's theoretically a full stroke, but it's very subtle. If you're thinking about bouncing at that point and accepting the rebound, there's virtually no rebound. But that's the concept that you're not ever pulling the stick up. But the reality is that you do.
Yeah.
Okay? A little bit. But a tap stroke sounds like that. An upstroke sounds exactly like a tap stroke. It's the start position of an upstroke is the tap stroke position. and you simply go up. You actually pull the string, and you're controlling that movement, okay? And it's not an accent. Some people think, oh yeah, like
Right.
it's just a tap stroke sound, but you're now finishing that position.
Wow.
Okay, so that's a very controlled stroke. It's a very unnatural kind of thing, but there's a reason for this, and I'll show you in a sec.
Okay.
Okay, so we have full, down, tap, up. So we have two sounds. Yes.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So those are the 4 strokes in the Gladstone thing.
Wow.
Now what's good about these, and this is what I got this from Jeff Queen watching his whole thing recently, and this is good. The Gladstone thing gives you all this control. So when you've got an upstroke, okay, how do I put this? Okay, that's Gladstone, we understand that. The application would be, for example, something like this, and I almost think maybe I should put up a music stand.
Yeah.
But, okay. Grab that one by the hi-hat over there, yeah.
This one?
Yeah, thanks. Yes, and it does that. Okay, I'm looking at the time. We're going to get through this.
All right.
Okay. Okay, let's just for the fun of it, go to Joe's book.
Okay.
Do you have the new edition of what is it? What is it? What's that there? Accent and rebounds?
No.
Okay. Because I'll show you something about that.
Right.
Depends if you want to get into this or not. Where is that? Okay, so let me find Joe's book here. Oh, I think I know where it's going to be. Okay, while I'm thinking of it, because I'm hearing you play there, one of the cool things I got, Joe's thing of letting the stick breathe, don't get in its way, hearing the wood. Those are 3 key phrases with Joe. And one I got from Bill Bachman, which I actually think about all the time, is if you hold the stick like this, tight, okay, you don't feel the weight of the wood. You just kind of feel that your hand is gripped around the stick. If you loosen your hand, like you're holding a bird, can you feel the weight of the wood right now?
Yeah,
Have you ever noticed that before? No. So this is Bill Bachman's thing. He says, feel the weight of the wood. So it's like, okay, here I am here, now here I am here. So I've got the weight of the wood. So if I feel, I'm still feeling the weight of the wood here, right?
Oh, wow.
If you go tight, the wood disappears, right? But now I can feel the weight of the wood. I'm aware of the stick. So if I'm playing, and I'm feeling the wood. Feel the wood in your left hand. Now grip tight, and the wood disappears.
Wow.
It's just weird.
Yeah.
When you have the weight of the wood, you realize, oh yeah, and then you know to be in the right position. You can feel. You just get all the sensitivity. So that's what he calls feeling the weight of the wood.
So cool.
It's very cool. So the lines really nicely with all this stuff. I just wanted to mention that because when you were playing, I could hear the air in your sound, the looseness, you know, and I just didn't know if you knew about that phrase.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so I thought I'd just
Oh, wow.
That's a really good one from him. So I'm just going to take a second to see.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, good. I found this. So this is good. And I'm kind of looking now for Joe's book. Continuing in the sort of Joe mode.
Yes.
Once he showed me that, and he showed me to develop the full stroke, like to develop that reflex with the stone, right?
Yeah.
Just do that for a month. I think that was amazing, by the way. Just to, that's okay. Just to get used to this, you know. And then I got to the point, you know, like say the top, whatever I mean, I could pull it out, but you know, one of them is, right? So if you're still feeling the bounce, and you're at that position, drums. You do this anyway, right?
Some of it with the right hand, yeah.
Okay, not so much with the left hand.
No.
Okay, now here's something interesting. You're kind of in a French grip in your left hand there, I'm noticing.
Oh yeah.
Okay, now here's something I learned from, I think partly Jeff Queen. This is a really interesting thing. The closer your hands are in here, the more natural it is to be in French grip, okay?
Oh yeah.
As opposed to this, that just doesn't, this seems to be what happens to the hand when you come in here. But as you go out, yes, you could maintain
so
that,
true.
but really what happens the further you go out is, you end up being in American and German, okay?
So true.
It's really radical. So if
Wow.
you're, I actually play in here a lot. I'm actually pretty German.
Yeah.
Like I'm kind of, it's just my style. But
Yeah.
it's kind of a truism. The good thing about that is, if you think you're out here, what happens is American and German, you know, / German, encourages the use of the back fingers. Because it just does. And in fact, the Moller sometimes talks about being, you know, the fulcrum back here, you know that, right?
Yeah.
And so that happens when you're out here. You can't really do that
Oh, wow.
in French grip.
Right.
Okay? So in fact, if you want to get that, then it's, yeah man, you go out here, then the wrist is going to be flat so it can, the chain can whip.
Right.
If you're here, it
Yeah.
doesn't move in the same way. If you're in French grip, the wrist movement is quite limited as compared to that.
Totally.
You know that, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, so there's the German movement of the wrist. If I'm French grip,
Yeah.
that's why they say it encourages.
It's right there.
It's right there. That's beautiful for the fingers.
Yeah.
This is not as good for the fingers, it's better for the wrist.
Yeah.
Okay? So, how did I get onto that track?
So we were talking about Morello. You're going to show me some stuff from Morello. We went through the four
Okay.
Gladstone strokes.
Okay, so basically what Joe then did, oh yeah, and we were talking about stone, and the thing is, for a wrist-generated stroke, and I noticed your left hand, that's right, we were doing this, if you're out here a bit, you're going to be in a more natural American position as opposed to here, and it encourages, because this is kind of an American grip, German grip stroke, wrist-generated stroke. Okay, that's why Don Familaro talks about imagining you've got a barrel around you. Do you know that?
No.
Because that forces your arms into this, and yeah, so it's just a matter of if the wrist is flat, it's going to be
Your
able to do
elbows
that.
are really coming out, huh?
I don't really do that
Maybe not.
much.
Okay.
You know, I mean, if I'm doing this, see, I mean, it's all a matter of degree too. Joe used to say like, Jim Chapin and Gene Krupa looked like chickens trying to take off. Right? It's just too much for him, so he did a modified Moller. He brought it in more. But that was something I learned and I know is true. Just like feeling the wood and just knowing that if I'm here, well, it's sort of true. But it's just good to know that when you're out here, that encourages wrist movement and back finger. Okay? And that's kind of a grip. So it's a cool thing.
I didn't know that. That's really neat.
Yeah, and it's pretty basic too.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it just shows that there's not a right or wrong, they're just different aspects of playing come out in different positions,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the next thing that Joe did, once I came back for lesson 2, was to say, okay, now we're not going to go through this necessarily, but basically the way it works is, any accent is a full stroke, okay? If the next stroke in that same hand, not the next note, but the next stroke in whatever you just did your accent with, is an accented note, then that anytime you have an accent, you want to start the accent from up here. Okay?
Yeah.
So an accent starts up here. Now, if the next note in the same hand is also an accent, I'm prepared for the accent, I'm still up here. If the next note is going to be a tap stroke, so first note's an accent, second note's an accent, third note's a non-accented note, it would be, okay, so I use a downstroke. Yeah, that's 3 accents in a row.
Oh.
So basically, it's always a funny way to put it, but you're preparing in the controlled stroke. You're always preparing for the next stroke in whatever hand you're talking about. Okay?
Yeah.
So in this case, we'll just look at it. Number 1, you know, of accents and studies. Okay, there's a right. It starts with a right hand accent. The next right hand is a non-accented note, followed by another right hand non-accented, etc. It's a whole series of non-accented right hand strokes.
Yep.
So if I'm not using if I put the left hand aside, I have accented right hand to a non-accented right hand. So that
Okay.
means that
Oh, I
this
see.
stroke is going to be a downstroke.
Okay.
Now I'm ready to do my tap stroke.
Okay.
So I have tap, 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 up. Now this stroke is an upstroke. It's non-accented, but the next note's an accent.
Oh, cool.
So that has to be an upstroke to put me in position.
Got
So
it.
if I just do that series, if I don't worry about the rhythm or anything, if I take out the left hand and I just look at all those R's, all those rights, and I go, okay, I've got an accent, non-accent, 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 accent, it would be like this. Accent to non-accent. So down, tap, 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 up. Now this is an accent and I have to look ahead. Okay, next note in that hand is actually accent. So that's full, and then this note is down.
Oh, cool.
Did that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
So this is actually a complicated version of this. Okay, this is an ancient book that we all know.
Mm-hmm.
When they published it the first time, well, when you would work with Stone and Joe, they would, apparently, I've learned this from this new edition, they'd write in above all these stickings with accents, which is just like this.
Oh, look at that.
They'd write in these various arrows.
Oh, wow.
So, let me put my other glasses on.
Yeah.
So, I learned to apply the Gladstone stuff through Joe's own book. These are kind of musical, more complicated things. I did the tedious work of going super slow and being able to call out full, down, tap, 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 up, down, tap, up, full, you know, like that, both
Yeah.
hands,
Oh,
right?
cool.
I did that like for actually like months. You know?
Oh, wow.
And I'll tell you why that's a good thing. Here they basically describe when you have the double arrows, like up and down, that's a full stroke. So the one arrow down is a downstroke. So you know we know what a downstroke is. It's got an accent. Oh, that's the left. Yeah. Okay. So and that's a tap, and that's an up. So it's a non-accented upstrokes because the next note's going to be and there's all four. So that's. Yeah, and they're doing
talk about it right there.
Yeah. So in fact, there it is there. Okay, so this is cool. This is a great resource for that.
Wow.
It's not too expensive, $12.50, and there's a bit of history. I don't think the entire book is like. Let's see. Well, it actually. Yeah, these are different. These are non-accented things. Anything with accents, they do it. So that's the system that Joe and George Lawrence Stone used to actually write in.
Wow.
But they didn't put in when they made the book for some reason.
Yeah,
So okay,
yeah.
so that's what all this is. When Joe showed it to me, it was from his own book, his versions, you know, of stuff. Now, what
Okay, we're going again.
Okay.
We better just quickly recap
Which thing?
just the Moller real fast.
Okay, so the typical Moller's the three notes. So you know we're winding up for an accent. Second note is a rebound.
Yeah.
And third note is happening as a result of moving up. So this we're not getting heavy into Moller, but basically, so we
Yeah, perfect.
that kind of thing.
And can
If
you
I
compare it to the control?
Gladstone would be down tap up, down tap up, down tap up. So in fact, I'm controlling that rebound. Down tap up.
And then just with the two, the accent.
Okay. So well, if I had a phrase of, let's say, maybe I'll do it on the beat. So the typical rock phrase, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. So Moller, well, no, Gladstone would be down up, down up.
And then Moller.
Moller would be, you know, Moller happens when you're going a little faster. And what we said about Moller is that's cool, is that because that tap stroke before the accent is happening as a result of a movement as opposed to a controlled stroke, it has variations.
Yeah.
There are inherent variations.
It's looser.
It's looser and it's bouncing, so it's, you know, just all the organic business involved results in a variation in the sound.
And the timbre, you mean, because you're hitting a different part of the drum.
Yeah, it's just gonna be you're letting nature really take over, as opposed to I'm in control here.
Okay.
Sometimes it's just good to know all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So the next thing was we were going back to the book.
Going back to the paradiddle. So if I have a Gladstone paradiddle, love it.
Yeah.
Okay, down, up, tap, tap, down, up, tap, tap, down, up. I love the grace. Hey, everybody, what's happening?
Yeah,
No?
it's so awesome.
Ba boom, ba 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 boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba ba boom, ba boom. So, yeah, I'm bringing that. I'm not. That's not being prepared or not happening as a result of going up for a whip. I'm not tight, but I'm getting a really precise note before that accent because I'm in control. Now, if I was to, well, anyway, back to the paradiddle Mollerize. Basically, any upstroke, the Gladstone up is controlled. With Moller, it's a result of preparing for the accent.
Right.
It's part of that initial winding up. So, what I've had to learn is to exaggerate that because I have a lot of that Gladstone in my left hand. You know, because there's time to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm comfortable with that. But I'm now working this stuff. If I have an accent, I'm letting the upstroke be Mollerized. In other words, I'm pulling up here, right?
Yeah.
So I just make sure that I initiate that note, you know, like that. So that's Moller. And see, I couldn't even do it that tempo, medium, with Gladstone, really. But if I move my wrist like that, I know that I'm, you know, so that's Moller. So for me, in my own practicing, I'm just exaggerating that now. Okay, so that's kind of it there, you know.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Al.
Okay, man.
Awesome. Nothing else, you're sure?
I'm just thinking. I mean, I don't know if you're joking there.
But no. Serious.
Okay. Yeah,
Triplet stuff.
I mean, huh?
Triplet stuff, flams.
Oh, okay. It's important. Part of the
Or maybe we should just jam for the last 5 minutes.
well, part of the pedagogy is that it's important to vocalize these notes. This is the tedious part. But if you wanted to do this for a month, 10 minutes a day, you know, full, down, tap, up, you know, anything that you're playing. So the paradiddle, down, up, down, up, tap, tap, down, up, tap, tap, down, up, tap, tap, down, up, tap, tap. So when you get to flams, it's hard because there are two sticks involved, so you can't vocalize.
Oh, I see.
So you have to choose which.
Good opportunity for new language to come into play.
Yeah, because it's really not there.
Yeah,
you know? So I've been kind of working with that because I've been just doing the rudiments, applying Gladstone and then Moller. That's just what I'm doing right now.
Huh.
And so if I was doing this. Mollerizing, Gladstone. But yeah, I've been choosing the non-grace note as the note I'm going to vocalize.
Oh.
You know, so down, even though that's a tap. On the left hand, it's tap.
So it would be the lamb
tap
of the,
up.
of the
So
flam.
It's still So then I've discovered. You know, that's down.
Oh, cool.
You know, and I've also sometimes just will not bother vocalizing the tap. So down, or full down, up, full down, up, full down. So I'm not going full tap, down, tap. You know.
Oh, right.
Full down, up, full down, up, full down. Like that. Okay. So it's important to vocalize. That leads into a little trouble when you start working with flams and drums and stuff.
Right on. Thanks, Al. Awesome.